Good morning. I have with me Mike Cole, Kate MacEachren, Dan Drapeau, and Mrs. Cole. They're all veterans. They're all suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Dan also has a service dog. And I'm going to ask Mike to come up and take it from here.
Thank you very much. I think there's a common misconception with post-traumatic stress, and that it's a disorder. It's an illness, actually. It's a job-induced illness. And somebody like who has diabetes, they get insulin, they get treated, they're fine. They go back into society, everything works out well. For someone with PTSD, just the term disorder makes it sound like you're a bit of a crazy person. So just as an example, I brought with me my insulin. That's what I live on, to be like I am today. Now, this took me almost 6 years to get. So when the government says to someone, hey, you've got to get help, you've got to ask for help, that's all well and fine. It's the time frame between the time that you ask for help and the time that you actually get help. Now, I'm a pilot. What do I have to have PTSD for? I flew in every crappy place you could be: Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, Cyprus, Congo, Ethiopia, 2 Gulf Wars. I flew the blankets and everything into Gander to help the people after 9/11, and I flew the unknown soldier home. So really, I've got no reason to have PTSD, except for the problem comes up when I'm flying into Rwanda to support General Dallaire, and he's having troubles in there. He's calling me in. I'm doing assault approaches into the airport. They won't give me a gun because somebody might get hurt. After I land the airplane, a 12-year-old kid with an AK-47 comes walking on and says he's hungry. I mean, situations like that just are just the norm for us, and you're put in unbelievable situations. Now, I believe officers, when you go through basic training, you're told to be an officer, and you have to be an officer first, a pilot second. Now, the problem is that we seem to have a whole lot of troops out there having troubles, but I don't see any officers standing around. And so here I am. Now, I'm the poster child for everything that could go wrong with VAC and everything. So I'm just going to go through the list of what I've done, what I've tried, and how long it's taken. And I know rank is given, but respect is earned, and hopefully the troops, Mario and Mike from Lethbridge, will remember me from trying to help them out. Anyway, the first thing that happens when you join the military is you get into basic training. To make it simple, basic training is brainwashing. When you go to basic training initially, let's just imagine there's a guy with a gold helmet on. And the guy with the gold helmet is supposed to tell everybody what to do. So imagine you're on a bridge. The guy with the gold helmet says, everybody jump over the bridge. When you first go to basic training, everybody looks at you, what are you, nuts? I'm going to walk around. I'm not going to go over the bridge. I'll take a rope. I'll take the stairs. By the time you're done basic training, the guy with the gold helmet says, jump over the bridge. You jump over the bridge. You don't even ask a question. That's what the brainwashing does. Single point of contact. It's your immediate supervisor. The person who gives you the order is the one you have to trust. You trust them blindly because they would never put you in harm's way unless it was absolutely necessary. So, with that being said, the Prime Minister said the other day, all you got to do is ask for help. The CDS said, hey, we're all for it. I tested out the theory, called the Major General, and said all my problems that were going on. Never heard anything back. talked to General Dallaire twice, his office. He said he's incapable, he doesn't have the expertise. I don't know what you need for expertise to help somebody out through the maze of VAC and D&D, but he doesn't. He indicated he didn't have it. The one thing most of all in the military is you have to follow orders. The higher rank you have, the more power you have. And the more power you have, the more control you have. And this is what the troops have been talking about, the control. Me as an officer, aircraft commander, I had control. I could order somebody to be charged, thrown in jail. You know, that's the military structure as an officer. There are certain rules we have to follow, National Defense Act, QROs, and the Canadian Forces Administrative Orders. And these are what the officers and all the ranks need to follow. This is the military justice system, not the civilian justice system, the military justice system. Now, the military justice system allows an officer to be a judge, if required, because we can charge people in the field for insubordination and so on and so forth. There comes the rub. What happens is, if you have a problem, and let's say it's with a senior officer, then there's a certain procedure to follow. So in my case, I'll go through my case to be the poster boy for everything that could go wrong. So what I did was I ended up having to put in a harassment complaint against the base commander in Trenton. According to the orders, you can't adjudicate yourself. He did. Now, a base commander owns the base. He owns the police. He owns the psychologists, psychiatrists. He owns everything. So where do you go for help? So when these troops are telling you, I got no place to go, and if this base commander wants you fired, you are fired. And no one's going to question him. So, yeah, you can't ask for help.
You cannot ask for help.
He is supposed to be the judge, the help.
It's a career ender.
So anyway, so the base commander made himself judge, found himself not guilty. Surprise. Anyway, then it was investigated to the next level. You have to wait till that level's done. You go to the next level. The next level was Commander Air Command. And they thought it was fine that this base commander adjudicated himself and found himself not guilty. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but you can't adjudicate yourself. I don't know where they're coming up with, but here's their support network. So anyway, General Bree at the time wrote an open letter and said, hey, there's too much going wrong with the I'm getting a kick-out call here pretty soon, but he said we're having a little trouble with the harassment complaints with senior officers. So I went ahead and he wanted to know about any problems, so I gave him my paperwork. He found it was not guilty, that he had not followed the orders, and they sent me to alternative dispute resolution. And after that, now I have no faith in the senior officers who are directing me to go take people into harm's way, and I'm having to give orders to people now when I don't trust my bosses. So
bottom line is you can't ask for help.
Yeah.
And it's a hypocrisy.
Anyway, I'm free to answer a lot of questions. My story is a lot longer, but I must go and give Kate a chance.
Good morning. My name is Kate MacEachren. I was a soldier. I'm retired now. I was only a corporal. I'm here today to start a discussion. Not a he said, she said. Not facts off the internet. Nothing out of a book. I'm not following general mentality, and I don't have a biased opinion I'm going to try to force on anyone. I'm not going to stand here and claim I'm an expert or to have credentials in any form or aspect to give me the right to judge or persecute anyone. I'm here today with eyes wide open to fall on a sword for my brothers and sisters in arms. Why? Because it's time we get a few more voices doing just that. Plain and simply, it's time a few more people wake up and do something. Think outside the box. Make some noise. Step outside and make a difference. Help our men and women. In 2005, I signed the dotted line, like many other people. When I signed that line, I signed a blank check, payable with my life. When I heard on the news that Minister Fantino was saying not all sacrifice is equal, not all soldiers are equal, really? Because where I stood and where I signed, we all were equal and we all will be until the day we leave this earth. The only thing any of us expected in return when we signed that line was simple respect. Respect for our families. Respect in our careers. Respect if we became ill or injured. But also respect as a human being. Simple respect. Simple respect from those higher ranked and respect from the people within the government we stand for. If a soldier becomes injured, no matter what the injury, they should be taken care of. Easy concept, right? They should be fully taken care of. Fully and without restraint or cutback. No family, no soldier should ever be told no. Sorry, you're not entitled. Or it may work, but we do not have it in the budget. No soldier or his family should ever hear, we can't really help you cope, but we're going to mow your grass. We're going to shovel your driveway, but we're not really going to help you. What is that? Some sort of a sick consolation prize? Is that a joke? Because nobody is laughing. You know, my family is falling apart. My life was spiraling, but look how amazing my lawn work looks. Sometimes I wonder how we're living in a world that some powers that be must continuously argue about petty issues and things don't matter, when honestly we're losing the men and women that helped you up on that high horse and have enabled you the freedom to speak. We're losing them inside our own borders. I beg of you, where did their respect go? Where did simple respect for them go? The NDP and Conservative parties, you were asked to give a moment of silence for our last fallen soldiers. 4 human beings that wore a uniform to protect you. You were asked to respect them. Nothing more. Just respect. And you said no. Shame on you. You couldn't find a moment to give respect to our 3, now 4 fallen. 1 moment in your day was too much respect to ask for. Just 1 moment. Just too much respect. Thank you for that. Thank you for opening my eyes. Thank you for opening a lot of our eyes. Maybe next time, huh? Next time. Next time we lose one of my brothers or sisters in arms, we'll make sure you get written notice to ensure you can pencil in respect. Maybe next time we'll send a Canada-wide email to all those whom hurt. Let them know to give you notice that you can pencil them in. Cowards deny, heroes try. When I first took a stand up here today, I told you and I promised I wouldn't talk about what I didn't know about. Frankly, I believe too many people are taking that line lately. If you've not walked in a soldier's boots, in some regard, I don't believe you're entitled to speak for us. I think more soldiers need to take a stand and start talking. The only way we can stop the hurt is to start the conversation. The conversation needs to happen. Please. No more of my brothers and sisters. We can't lose anymore. 1 is too many. 4 is a national tragedy. At this point, I would like to welcome you into my world. To a world inside the uniform. How fast things can change and what the reality of PTSD and what asking for help looks like. How well PTSD is being recognized within the system, how easy it is to get help, how easy it is to go against the proverbial grain and try to get help for others, what that looks like. In 2012, I walked from Gagetown to my hometown of Antigonish, Nova Scotia. I did it to support an organization within the military. I called this endeavor the long way home to signify the journey after injury. With basically no notice, no bulletproof plan, it was approved. Not only supported, but praised to the highest. What a lot of people saw in the news and at work was Corporal MacEachren receiving everything from a CDS commendation to the Queen's Jubilee Medal, to the Minister of National Defence, who was my hometown MLA, giving me a hug and praising my determination. He gave a glowing speech and called me a hero. Although I knew I maybe helped a little, I only believed in one thing that day. The only thing I believed in that day was my belief in what I was doing, and that maybe I made a little difference. After all, the Minister of National Defence showed up. He wore my shirt. He gave me a hug. He shook my hand. I believed I could trust him. I actually had confidence he was real, that he got it. He got wanting to help. He told me that day if I ever needed anything, to contact his office. 28 emails later, and many more tears than that, I never saw nor heard from him again. Somehow, though, pictures of us, him wearing my support shirt, smiling beside me, those were still all over the place. Funny how that happens. What was happening behind the cameras? The glorified Corporal MacEachren's life was starting to unravel. For the first time in my life, I had to take a knee and ask for help. Prior to the walk, I had an issue with a member of my chain of command. I was scared to bring it forward because of the walk and because of the stigma. I wanted to help others first. That is who I am, and that is how I was raised. It's also a life lesson I will never forget that was strengthened by my service in the military. Duty to those that walk under the flag I wear on my sleeve. Integrity. Loyalty to soldiers, both serving and retired. Courage to stand up when almost every voice is telling you to sit down. I waited until after the walk so I could quietly take a knee and maybe regain respect. Regain respect for those senior to me, the very people I was aspiring to be, that so many of us were aspiring to be. What happened at that point still invokes emotion I try to hide. I filed the paperwork, I explained my case, I over and over wrote down, took notes, went through the actual experiences. I was told about a month. A month would wrap this up. In a month I could carry on with my career and put this all behind me. It got worse. For months I asked over and over for help. More and more people were becoming involved, and instantly I had a target. I was being approached by other higher ranking members and accosted by what is commonly referred to as the old boys club. How dare I stand up for myself, for my own rights and respect? How dare I take down a good warrant? Good soldiers don't do that. And then it happened. He was found guilty. I could put this ugly mess behind me and carry on for once. Within days, I also got the most amazing news of my life. After 5 years of fight after the accident, fight to become healthy again and to come back from my side effects from the seizures and other injuries, fight in rehabilitation, fight in physio, finally it would be over. I got word that I had a chance. If I could prove myself in 30 days, I could be a soldier, an armored crewman again, and not have a medical side effect or crisis, as they called it. I could have my career back. The fight was finally over. I could be a soldier again. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be okay, but this was a medical trial. It wasn't about how good I could do my job. It was if I could do it. How well your body will adapt after an injury. Hell I could never imagine started to open that day. But I went to work every day and I did my job. I was a good soldier and nobody can take that away from me. 30 days later, in some events that we'll never forget, I was taken in and told I had failed. My career was scheduled to be over. I had to stop fighting because I was losing myself. I was diagnosed 3 years prior with PTSD, anxiety, depression, the usual beast that is mental injury. I was falling into a well so far I wasn't sure I could crawl out of. It just got worse. Complete with drastically escalating human rights violations I can't understand nor accept, I started spiraling and started to fall. At this point, I came as close as I will ever come to giving up. My career was gone. My life as I knew it was gone. I did something I never thought I would ever do. I fell apart and begged for help. The response I got was numerous bottles of pills and 2 weeks off. This is an administrative problem and not a medical, I was told. A soldier that has not slept in 3 days, has not eaten in the same, has bleeding fingers from chewing her nails, and is expressing a majority of flags out of a suicide checklist, and they send her home with bottles of pills and a pat on the back. It wasn't just me. It isn't just me. There's more me's out there. See you in 2 weeks. How many soldiers don't make it back? I begged to go to JPSU because it's a soldier's right, but I was denied. I was told I would serve every day with them. I was too broken to be a soldier, but I wasn't broken enough to be sent to JPSU to transition to a civilian world. I couldn't do it anymore. My mind was now even more broken, and instead of a linked arm, I got pushed over the edge. They saw the signs and nobody stopped it. A year ago last month, I was standing on the edge of a bridge. I will never forget the taste of sweat and tears pouring down my face. I couldn't imagine a day without seeing that flag on my sleeve. The only thing that stopped me that day was my son in a moment that made me realize how many others have stood there in my shoes, how many have tied the noose or loaded the gun, how many that haven't been able to step back. Parts of the military and government aren't getting it. Lots of words are now being spoken, but it's too late for some. Why did we have to wait until now? I got my boots back on. Why can't anybody else? It's time we start talking. We need to have this discussion, and we need to start refusing to bury my brothers and sisters. It is not right. It is supposed to be safe in our country. But what would I know? I was only a corporal.
Bonjour, mon nom est Daniel Drapeau. Moi, je suis un des chanceux. J'ai le PTSD, mais je suis sur le vieux système. Je reçois une pension à tous les mois. Au moins, je suis garanti d'avoir du manger sur la table et un toit sur la tête. Je suis d'une génération que le PTSD n'existait pas. Quand mes chums sont morts à moi, j'ai pas broyé, j'ai pas rien fait, parce que si j'aurais broyé, j'aurais été un peu heureux puis m'aurais sacré dehors. C'était aussi simple que ça marchait avant. T'étais une machine, t'as pas le droit d'avoir de sentiments, puis s'il se passe n'importe quoi, fallait que tu fasses ta job. T'as pas le droit d'avoir de sentiments pantoute. Malheureusement, ils disent qu'ils améliorent le système. On se compare même, celui du gouvernement se compare même aux autres pays pour dire qu'ils donnent les meilleurs systèmes. On ne s'est pas battu pour les autres pays, on s'est battu pour ce pays. On a repris des missions de paix pour ce pays. Quand on s'est engagé, ils nous ont dit qu'ils allaient s'occuper de notre femme et de nos enfants s'il nous arrivait de quoi. Malheureusement, là, on s'aperçoit que ce n'est pas ça pantoute. C'est à un point, on compare le niveau de suicide des militaires, des femmes et des hommes, et des vétérans, au taux de suicide qu'il y a à travers le pays. Ce qu'ils ont oublié, c'est que c'est eux autres qui nous ont envoyés là. C'est à cause d'eux autres qu'on a le PTSD, sacramasse. C'est aussi simple que ça. Mon cher monsieur Harper, une question pour vous. Comment il va là qu'il va falloir qu'il meure avant que vous fassiez de quoi, sacramasse? Merci.
Thank you. If you have any questions of the veterans, please.
To hear from, thank you so much for telling us your stories, and you're so emotional. We just want to know, what do you want to see done? I mean, I'd like to hear from both of you if possible. You know, because the government says help is available. I know that that's a source of frustration for you, but can you expand a little bit on what you want to see government and the military and Veterans Affairs do?
Well, right now we're honestly moving backwards. We saw this influx coming with our vets. We saw it a very long time ago. And how are we responding? We're closing vac centers. We're making guys travel. We're going in the wrong direction. We need to see change, and we need to see more support. Our vets, our soldiers, we need enough.
Support. That you're looking.
I can help with that one.
If you want to take this one, go right.
Sure. As I said earlier, I'm the poster boy for anything that could go wrong with the system. Now, when the Prime Minister says, all you got to do is ask for help, the CDS, same thing, just ask for help. So, I asked for help. I started with my local MP. My local MP said he'd get back to me in 2 weeks. That was 5 years ago. Never heard from him back again. Conservative MP, by the way. As far as my case that I initially elaborated on, they said, okay, we'll sign a legal document and everything is going to be resolved. So everything is going to go away. That wasn't happened. I was so broken, and they knew it. I was even deployed to a war zone, unfit to fly. That's how bad it gets. Now, can I say anything? No.
Can you ask for help?
The doctors knew it. The medical staff knew it. The physical people knew it. The medications I was on could tell it. But I couldn't say anything because if I said anything, I lose my job. If I lose my job, I lose my career. I lose my career, lose my house. What are my choices? Go to war. You're not fit to go to war. Who am I going to complain to? Senior officers were right there. They all knew about it. I was actually sitting there flying the plane when the word came through. So, and they were sitting right beside me. Ask for help. Help. They don't want to help. You know? Now, after I did this agreement with the government, you know, with the base commander who adjudicated himself, they said I could use that paperwork for pension to get a Veterans Affairs pension when I was done. So they said they were going to hang on to the paperwork. So when I went to go apply for a Veterans Affairs pension when I was done, the paperwork was destroyed. And I said, well, what do you mean? You were the only sole holder to all this paperwork. And they said, well, too bad, so sad. We destroyed it. So I went to the Privacy Commission. I said, you can't destroy a legal document between the Government of Canada, the Chief of Defence Staff signed. Oh, yeah, we can. And if you don't like it, go to federal court. So I went to federal court, applied to federal court, and I said, look, I'm mentally disabled. I'm diagnosed with PTSD. I need help to fight this case, and I'm told I have to go to federal court. Federal court told me to piss off. We don't supply lawyers. I don't care what your malady is. So then I went to human rights. And I said, the federal court said they're not going to help me with a lawyer because they don't supply lawyers. And I said, but I'm mentally disabled to the Human Rights Commission, and I don't think it's fair that the federal court denies me a lawyer. And the Human Rights Commission came back and said two things. They said, well, first of all, the federal court isn't federal. They're not under our jurisdiction. And the second is, we don't know if mentally disabled is disabled. And so then I had to refile. So then I refiled, and they lost my paperwork. A surprise. And then I had to refile again, and with naming D&D to help cover the cost, because they were the ones that lost the documents that denied me the getting veterans benefits and getting help and all those medications you saw me bring up. And so I I got to that point, and so here I am. This is for Mr. Harper. I asked for help. Human Rights doesn't know mentally disabled is disabled. They won't answer me. It's been over 6 months. Federal court has denied me. I can't get an explanation of what happened to my documents. I mean, ask for help from who? Everyone I ask for help from says, not my department, or I can't help you, or I mailed it to myself. I'll have to wait till I get it back. I don't know.
And you wonder why we have suicide.
Government keeps, go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms, it sounds like you're saying that you need a change in culture in the military, that I'm not hearing anything about specific supports or help or programs for mental illness. What I'm hearing from Kate and yourself is that it's really a culture of thinking and the stigma that has to change within the military.
Yes, very much so. It's a very much an old boys network. If you admit, which takes a lot from somebody in the military, and I got to say, hey, I was at the south end of a northbound bottle for a long time, and I almost died. That was my weapon of choice, unfortunately, and there was no help forthcoming. And the other problem, while this is going on, is they're telling me I have to fight with Veterans Affairs to get my benefits, and then to get the benefits, I can't get the benefits because D&D destroyed the documents. Veterans Affairs won't help me get the documents from D&D. I mean, where do you go for help?
Both of you are saying, though, what, in addition to the climate, whatever's going on here, it seems that although the military is saying, step forward, we'll help you. If you've got a mental illness, come forward. When you do, they can discharge you. That's the end of your career. I mean, that's the nub of it. Right?
That is it. Yeah.
Step forward, but we're going to fire you. And
yeah, there is no protection net. You are gone. You open it.
Ask Kate, there are also examples of some of the soldiers that we've lost, the men and women you've spoken about. And we find out after the fact that they were getting help. You know, some of them were seeing therapists. Mm-hmm. Yet there's a moment where there's some kind of catalyst, something happens. They're in a moment of despair and tragedy strikes. How, even for those who are getting help, mm-hmm. how do you intervene and when do you intervene to try and prevent that? Even for those who are getting help, are there some for whom help doesn't help?
No. I don't believe that there is anybody on the face of this earth that help won't help. Yes, you have to be open to it. You can't accept something unless you're willing to. It's the same as anything. But, I mean, a big thing is honestly getting help early and having stronger systems than we have now. There are systems in place. I mean, OSIS, different organizations that are doing their best, but it's not enough. And that's the problem. We need to strengthen these resources. We need to expand them, but we're going in the opposite direction.
The gentleman said,
J'aimerais peut-être vous entendre là-dessus. Est-ce que le problème, les lacunes, c'est une question monétaire parce que le gouvernement dit on met de l'argent pour aider les vétérans et leurs familles, ou c'est une question de culture, les problèmes sont mal étudiés?
C'est une question de culture, sur le sens que vous dites à une personne, viens, on va te soigner, mais vous y mettez un nuage au-dessus de lui qui dit, si tu ne guéris pas comme on veut, on te sac dehors. Puis toi, tu veux faire une carrière des forces, tu fais quoi? Ben, tu fermes ta gueule, puis un jour, ça va péter, puis tu vas aller te pendre. C'est aussi simple que ça. Les gars, ils ont peur de perdre leur job parce qu'ici, ils vont dire qu'ils sont malades, ils ne sont pas déployables, donc ils les enverront pas nulle part, ils ne sont pas utiles, ils les mettent à la porte. C'est de même qui est le système. Il faut que tu sois capable de marcher dans la machine. Si tu ne marches pas comme la machine marche, il te sacre à la porte, ça a toujours été ça.
C'est ça
la culture, c'est qu'un gars qui a le PTSD, au lieu d'y faire peur, aider-les donc, ça prend 5 ans avant qu'il guérisse, gardez-les 5 ans, bon Yann. Quand tu sais qu'un gars dehors avant 2 mois, pour qu'il ait 10 ans qu'il ait une pension pour vivre un peu, tu ne montres pas aux autres gars que tu es là pour les aider, tu leur montres là que si tu n'es pas capable d'être déployable et d'être un parfait soldat, on ne veut pas t'avoir. On se sacre bien que de toi et ta santé et ta famille. C'est un système qui est basé sur le sens que faut que tu sois toujours en parfaite santé. Tu n'as pas le droit d'être malade, tu n'as pas le droit d'avoir des problèmes psychologiques. C'est pas une question d'argent, ils l'ont l'argent. Il y a trop pour faire n'importe quoi. Ils vont en trouver pour de l'huile, n'importe quoi, ils l'ont l'argent. C'est une question de mentalité. Quand un gars va te voir qui dit qu'il est malade, aider les dons au lieu d'y faire peur, puis après ça, s'il ne guérit pas, le sacré dehors. La mentalité des années 70, là, qui te sacrait dehors, ça n'a pas changé. C'est juste qu'à cette heure, ils prennent un petit peu plus de temps avant de te mettre à la porte, ça paraisse bien.
Excuse me, one of the things the government keeps saying, standing up in the House, and even if you talk to them, there's a 1-800 number, and we want soldiers to phone this number when they're feeling like things aren't going very well for them. This is a constant reply.
Absolutely.
Can you answer that question? Sorry, I would like to have Kate that. Just, if you're a soldier going through that and the response is there's a 1-800 number for help, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I love this.
Honestly, it disgusts me. Let's just get applications. Just get a little app on our iPhones that will help. We need real people, and we need peer support is the biggest thing that we need.
Elaborate on peer support. Can you elaborate on what you need? Real people and peer support. What do you mean?
Buddy system. Battle buddies. Are you familiar with what I mean? It's, honestly, when you're going through training, when you're overseas, when you're anywhere, you have a battle buddy. They take care of you. You watch his 6, he watches yours. It works the same in Canada. It works the same with all of us. You know, basically we have amazing networks available to us. We do. And don't get me wrong, given the right circumstance, a helpline would be amazing. It would. But some of the things I've seen so far, I don't believe in it.
You mentioned the 1-800 number. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You mentioned the 1-800 number. My friend called that line. He was in distress. After half an hour, they told him, well, I cannot talk to you anymore. Go at the emergency. So the guy at the other end was like he had a quota to answer and give them a chance to the next one. Simple as that.
I just have a quick last point about the 1-800 number, which is similar to the 1-866 number. And the actual joke between the veterans that goes around is you dial the 1-866 number, 822-2122 for help. And there's supposed to be an expert at the end of the phone. Well, the expert doesn't know anything, but puts you in touch with the person who's supposed to know something, who doesn't answer the phone. And when you leave a message, they don't call you back. So then you call the 1-866 number again. You say, I didn't hear back from this person. Did you leave a message? Yeah, I did. They call you back? No. Okay, well, we'll try and get through. Guess what? Get the voicemail again. I mean, this goes on for months, trying to get in touch with a individual. You can't speak to a person at Veterans Affairs.
The process of making the call if somebody is in distress and going through all of that, voicemail, calling back, what impact does that have on the person who's in distress?
There's the key. You're in distress. You're in distress. You don't need an excuse. You don't need a voicemail. You need help, like now. And this whole idea that dial a number or, magical things will happen. If you feel like it's all over in about 10 minutes and you need help right now and you want help right now, it just doesn't cut it if you are getting somebody at the other end of the line who doesn't know what they're talking about.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about universality of service and how that can potentially be a barrier to care. Like we were talking about, people being afraid to come forward or just trying to deal with their mental injury on their own so that they don't risk, their job security and what has, I'm sure, become their family and all that they know. So, I mean, in theory, I guess it makes sense, but I mean, what's your possible solution or suggestions in terms of if you get the injury, whether it's physical or mental, while serving, should you be medically discharged? Should there be a notwithstanding clause? Like, I mean, how do you work around that policy so that it doesn't become?
It honestly should be case by case. I realize that takes a lot of time, but no two people are created equal. PTSD is not created the same twice. It's like a snowflake. Every person is going to have different symptoms. It's going to map itself differently. Someone like me, I can stand here, I can interact, I can react. I can be around crowds. I'm not agoraphobic. Someone beside me maybe can't walk out of his house. Maybe he hasn't left. Does that mean I should still serve and he shouldn't? Does that mean he should still serve and I don't? We can't group everybody into one. U of S, I get it, I understand, but it's very much like a cattle mentality. Throw us all in a pen, the black ones stay there, the white ones stay there, the ones that have, 3 spots, they can stand over there. It has to be done case by case.
That you have to serve 10 years to even qualify for a pension, do you think that keeps some people from coming forward in case they get discharged?
Absolutely. I can name, honestly, from the endeavor that I did this year, when I did the 2,000 kilometer march, I have 72 out of 7,000 soldiers that are hanging on emotionally by a thread just to get to 10 years. That's it. Just to get to that 10-year mark. How pathetic is that? These guys are suffering. Their families are falling apart. You can watch these guys erode in front of you. And all they're trying to do is hang on for 10 years, that few extra months, so that they'll have a pension and they won't starve to death in the next couple of years.
And they can't come forward and they can't tell the doctors because as soon as they tell the doctors have to report to their senior officers. The senior officers, which would be their commanding officer, no longer fit for service. See you later.
I'm wondering if any of you have seen any sort of culture change. You, Corporal MacEachren, you went on the walk. The Minister of National Defence was there. There did seem to be this idea that we're no longer going to let PTSD sufferers hide in the shadows. Have you seen a shift?
Actually, I'm just gonna, because I know it's a little bit confusing in my speech. Last year he was there. Last year he was there when I was doing it for physical injuries. This year when I did it for PTSD, for military minds, the only people that showed up are standing behind me as far as political figures. And, no, I'm sorry. Actually, Mr. Fantino's person showed up at my reception, which is wonderful because he offered to take me on a tour of Parliament. Because, that's what I was doing for 45 days and 2,000 kilometers in a blown knee, waiting to go to Parliament.
What your thoughts are, and you talk about the need for more resources, the need for more therapists. I'm assuming you didn't say that directly, but I'm assuming that's what you mean. There is a shortage, and the military has acknowledged that, saying, they can't even fill these positions. And even in the general population, there's a shortage of mental health professionals. I'm wondering, how you see the solution to that problem, if even just finding the right therapists is a challenge. How do you get around that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As Kate mentioned, there's different levels. Everyone's affected differently for different reasons. Now, the problem is because it takes so much for these people to put their life on the line, their career, their family, their livelihood, to come forward and finally take the knee and say, I need help, knowing their career is over and there is nothing else to do. They need help right then. Talk therapy is a beautiful thing when you're settled, when the chemicals in your body, the rage, the anger, the adrenaline, all the things that go along with PTSD. You wake up in the middle of the night and you're beating the hell out of your wife and you don't know why. Because that's just one of the things that you don't have control over. You've got to get your medications organized. You've got to get intervention medical-wise. And then after that, talk therapy is wonderful. But, the chemical imbalance that you have with PTSD, to turn around and having to fight with Veterans Affairs to say, hey, I took a knee, I need help, and them saying, well, in my case, you have no documentation, so we can't help you. There's nothing wrong with you. So, and others, the same thing. Their medical documents go missing, they can't prove the case, and they don't get anything. They were destroyed. And how many in the military? We don't have a big military. Keep everything, for God's sakes. It's not like we're the Treasury Department or something, and taxation. There's not many military. Keep everything. The people with Agent Orange, how many years did that take to come to light? The people with depleted uranium in the weapons in the first Gulf War that were getting radiation poisoning didn't know about it until long after the fact. But if they're just willy-nilly and said 2 years later, we're going to get rid of your documents, well, I mean, kind of unfair, isn't it? You don't hold on to them. You don't have the offer to keep them.
When it comes to the shortage of professionals, and you mentioned peer support, is that a possible way to fill the void in the absence of professionals if they can't find them or fill those positions?
It is, absolutely.
There's something happening, and certainly more information will be next week, but I think it's about time that peer support should be among the vets, and with some professional training, I think there's nobody better than to help somebody which is at the bottom come up from the people that have been there themselves. More information will be coming to you next week when it's ready to be launched. That's all I'm going to say right now. But somebody which has been there and somebody that has done it, if they get some support and some help, there'd be nobody else better to help a veteran than a veteran who's been in their shoes and has lifted themselves up.
Also, though, under the medical, we even heard yesterday from the military ombudsman that there are 76 medical personnel who have been approved, who are in the queue, ready to go, but they're caught up in some kind of red tape and can't actually start working. So aside from the buddy system and helping with peer support, there is an issue of medical support. I mean, what is your reaction to know that there are 76, even according to the military's own ombudsman, that are...
You know what? One is disturbing enough that one is waiting, that one's caught in red tape. 76 is mind-blowing. We're losing soldiers.
And again, we're into the talk therapy. We need the specialists, the psychiatrists, the ones that can actually issue the medication to get the PTSD symptoms under control. If you can't control the symptoms, it's like diabetes. If you're having sugar a crash and you need insulin, you need insulin. I mean, all the talk in the world about getting insulin is not going to help you.
This will undoubtedly come up again.
We're getting a signal that we need to wrap up, but we'll make the vets available to you if we can. I want to thank you for being here. My views are known. I'm not going to say anything. Today's their day. They're the sufferers. We need to step up to the plate and support them. And the call is to Minister of Defense, the Minister of Veterans Affairs. Let's do the walk that they're doing. Let's look in their eyes and let's provide support that they need. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, if you need to speak to the vets, we can do it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.